My parents showed up at my door demanding money after ignoring me for years. Reddit stories. They walked into my home like I still owed them access, counting my furniture instead of asking how I'd been. That visit made one thing painfully clear: they had no idea who I was anymore. Hi, I'm Evan, 32, and the day my parents showed up at my door demanding money was the same day I realized they had absolutely no idea who I'd become, or what I was capable of. For context, I'd moved cross-country 3 years earlier. Packed my entire life into a 16-foot rental truck, drove 1,200 miles to Austin, and started over from scratch. Not because I wanted to run away. Because I finally accepted something every ignored kid eventually figures out. If you stay, they'll keep pretending you're invisible. I wasn't the golden child. That was my brother, Trevor, the self-proclaimed entrepreneur who'd been on the brink of blowing up since 2011. I was the reliable one, the tech kid who fixed routers and built websites and got second place in the state math competition, while my family was too busy watching Trevor film skateboard videos for 83 subscribers. When I told them last year I'd been promoted to senior network architect at a Fortune 100 cybersecurity firm, $180K salary plus equity, nobody even looked up. Tiger's game was on. Mom was hard reacting Trevor's TikTok hustle content. Dad was pretending he wasn't half deaf. That was the moment something snapped. Quietly. Cleanly. I realized I could disappear and they wouldn't notice until they needed something. So I disappeared. I blocked the family group chat. I moved into a downtown Austin apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows. I built a life that didn't depend on being the family's unpaid ID department. I adopted a Belgian Malinois mix named Zuko, who loved me with the kind of loyalty I never got at home. I met a woman who saw me, actually saw me. Silence from my parents lasted 3 full years. Then my cousin posted a photo of my apartment during a visit, and suddenly I was the second coming of Elon Musk. They must have stared at that picture for 30 seconds and calculated my net worth on the spot because 3 days later my phone lit up with the text that started the whole avalanche. Your brother needs money. We're on our way. No greeting. No apology. No acknowledgement of 3 years of ghosting. Just a demand? I told them no. They came anyway. Saturday, 11:20 a.m. Doorbell ringing like they owned the air inside my home. They had no idea what they were walking into. And honestly, neither did I. They pushed past me the second I opened the door, like my apartment was a hotel suite they prepaid for, and I was just a bellhop who forgot to smile. Mom went first, wearing the perfume she always oversprayed when she wanted to appear wealthy. She did a slow scan of my living room the way realtors check for water damage, eyes moving, lips pursed, mentally estimating resale value. "Oh my gosh, sweetheart," she breathed. "This place is very upscale." Translation: "We think you're rich." Dad followed, carrying a 6-pack of the cheapest soda known to mankind. He didn't say hello. He asked where the remote was. Trevor came last, phone out, filming for his followers, because violating my boundaries was content now. His kid, Hudson, ran straight for my couch and started jumping on it like it was a trampoline. Nobody stopped him. I checked my watch. 2 hours. I'd given them 2 hours. Mom sat on my $3,200 leather sectional like a queen settling into her throne. "So," she said, steepling her fingers, "what's your salary now? You must be doing extremely well to afford all this." I felt the same familiar heat creep up my neck, the kind I used to swallow. But not anymore. "I'm comfortable," I said. Trevor laughed. "Come on, man. This place? Downtown Austin? You're clearing, what, 250? 300? What's the actual number?" They didn't want to connect. They wanted to budget my income. Dad found the remote. He turned on the Tigers game, of course, and cranked the volume so loud my windows vibrated. My own home sounded like the living room I'd escaped. I stood in the middle of the chaos, Hudson jumping, soda cans hissing open, the game screaming, Trevor filming, Mom prying, and felt it again. That same quiet clarity I'd felt in Michigan the day they ignored my promotion. I didn't leave them. I outgrew them. Half an hour in, Mom shifted to her real agenda. She leaned forward, clasping her hands, voice syrupy sweet. Your father and I have been talking about your brother's situation. I cut her off. No. She blinked. But you didn't. No. Trevor lowered his phone. Bro, just listen. I said no. Trevor scoffed. So you're too good to help family now? You're not here because I'm family. You're here because Tanner posted my apartment online and you realized I have money. Silence. Mom's face twitched. Dad muted the TV. Even Hudson stopped bouncing. That was the first time I'd ever said the quiet part out loud. And I wasn't done. You ignored me for 3 years, I said. And the first time you reach out is to ask for money. Trevor's jaw clenched. We flew here. That was your mistake. Not my responsibility. Dad slammed his soda on the table. You're being cruel. No, I said calmly. I'm being honest. 2 hours weren't up yet, but I'd had enough. Time's up. Get out. Mom gasped. Evan, we came all this way. And now you're going all the way back. Trevor stepped toward me, ready for a fight, but I didn't flinch. Zuko growled from the hallway, low, protective, promising violence if needed. For the first time in his life, Trevor backed down. They left in a storm of accusations, cruel, ungrateful, selfish, and I closed the door on 32 years of being their invisible middle child. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because the next morning, they came back. And this time, they weren't leaving without a fight. The next morning, they were waiting. Not metaphorically. Physically. In my hallway. I opened the door to take Zuko out, and there they were, 3 shadows standing under the fluorescent lights, looking like the world had personally wronged them. Mom stepped forward first. She always did. She weaponized pity like other people used pepper spray. Evan, sweetheart, she said, voice trembling. We need to talk. I stared at them. Said nothing. Dad crossed his arms. We're not leaving until you do. That was the thing about my family. They believed persistence was the same as entitlement. If they wanted something badly enough, they assumed the universe, or I, would bend. I shut the door. Mom yelled through it. We're staying in Austin until this is resolved. I texted instead of shouting. Me leave. We have nothing to talk about. Mom, we're not going anywhere. So I called building security. 5 minutes later, a guard arrived, tall guy, bored expression, exactly the type who'd seen 1,000 family meltdowns in apartment hallways. He approached them. Folks, the resident has requested you leave. We're his family. Mom snapped. Doesn't matter, the guard said. You need to go or I'm calling APD. Dad muttered something about disrespect. Trevor puffed his chest like a rooster. But they left. Not defeated. Just regrouping. Because that afternoon, calls started coming from numbers I didn't recognize. Mom. Dad. Trevor. My aunt. My uncle. Even some cousin I hadn't talked to since 2011. All with the same message. Your brother is in trouble. You need to help. But I didn't answer. Not one call. Not one text. I blocked every number they tried. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Not even close. Day 5. Zuko and I were on our usual walk at dusk, same route, same park, same easy rhythm, when I saw the van. Parked too close. Engine still warm. Tinted windows. Before I could turn, Trevor stepped out from behind it. Heart dropping. Throat tightening. Instinct screaming. Then Dad came out from the driver's side. Before I could react, Dad grabbed Zuko's leash. Yanked it right out of my hand and started dragging him backward toward the open van door. Zuko barked, panicked, trying to pull back, but Dad outweighed him. What the? I lunged. Trevor shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled but didn't fall. Trevor's voice was shaking. Anger, desperation, something uglier. You want to ignore us? He snapped. Fine. But you're gonna listen now. My pulse hammered in my ears. Give him back, I said, deadly calm. Dad kept dragging Zuko. My dog whined, a sound I'd never heard from him. Trevor leaned in close. Too close. You're giving us $75,000, he said. Or we sell the dog. I froze. He kept talking. There's a guy who buys working dogs. Cash. No paperwork. By tomorrow morning, he'll be in another state. You'll never see him again. Time stopped. The streetlights buzzed overhead. Cars passed in the distance. My hands trembled uncontrollably. They had crossed a line so deep it was carved into bedrock. I didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Didn't bargain. Because you can't bargain with people who see love as leverage. You have 48 hours. Trevor said. Don't play games. We're done waiting. Dad shoved Zuko inside the van. Slammed the door. The van peeled off, my dog's face in the back window, terrified and confused as he disappeared around the corner. And the only thought in my head was, they're not getting away with this. Not this time. Not ever again. I didn't chase the van. Not because I didn't want to. Because if I chased them, I'd lose, legally, strategically, emotionally. Everything in me wanted to sprint after that car until my lungs tore open. But strategy beat adrenaline. I went home. Closed the door. Sat on the floor where Zuko usually sprawled beside me. And then I called my lawyer. Not a panicked call. A surgical one. They took my dog, I said. They're demanding $75,000 or they say they'll sell him. I want every possible legal option. There was a pause. Then, that's extortion and theft. Yes, I said. I'd like to handle it intelligently. We filed a police report, quietly. I gave them the hotel my parents were staying at, Trevor's plate number, their likely contacts. But my lawyer said something that mattered. Don't force their hand yet. If they panic, they'll run. And they have the dog. So I waited. Waited while the anger simmered like molten metal under my skin. Waited while my inbox filled with new messages from unknown numbers, blocked immediately. Waited while Marissa paced the apartment like she wanted to go to war herself. When my lawyer called back at 11 p.m., everything changed. Evan, he said, your parents are in deep financial trouble. How deep? Second mortgage. Behind on payments. Foreclosure incoming. Your brother has personal debts across 6 creditors. Your parents co-signed $30,000 of it. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. So they're drowning. They're about to lose the house. That's when the final piece clicked. They'd taken my dog because they thought they had leverage. But they didn't understand something basic. There is no leverage when you have nothing left to lose. I spent the next 24 hours assembling a counterattack so clean it could have been framed. Cash lined up. Paperwork drafted. A distressed property realtor waiting on call. Hour 44. My mom finally broke. New number. Tears already audible in her voice. Evan, please, Trevor found a buyer for the dog. He's serious. They're coming tomorrow. I know, I said. What? I pulled your foreclosure records from the county site. Check your email. Silence. Evan, what did you do? I sent you a purchase offer for the house. Your what? I'm buying it, I said simply. Cash. Fair market value. Better than the bank will give you. We don't want to sell. You don't have a choice. You're behind on payments. My voice went cold. And here's the part you really need to hear. If anything happens to Zuko, anything, I pull the offer. The bank takes everything. You lose the house forever. Mom choked on a breath. You wouldn't. I would. And I will. This is cruel. No. Cruel was stealing my dog. I hung up. Exactly 53 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Dad stood there. Alone. Zuko beside him, tail tucked, leash trembling in Dad's hand. Dad didn't speak. Didn't apologize. Didn't meet my eyes. He just handed me the leash and walked away like a man who'd finally realized the world wasn't going to bend for him anymore. Zuko jumped into my arms so hard he nearly knocked me over. I held him until my shirt was soaked with his drool and my eyes were burning. Then I straightened, wiped my face, and forwarded the signed purchase agreement to my lawyer. 3 weeks later, the house was mine. And my parents had no idea that losing Zuko was just the beginning. The moment the ink dried on the sale, my parents tried to flip the script. It was almost funny. They'd spent decades treating me like an afterthought. Now suddenly, they were pitching themselves as my ideal tenants. Warm smiles, soft voices, the whole hostage negotiator routine. "Evan, sweetheart," my mom said over the phone. "Since you own the house now, maybe we could stay? Just for a little while. Until we get back on our feet." I didn't bother pretending. "Rent is $1,900 a month," I said. "Due on the 1st. Late fee after the 5th. My mom actually laughed like she thought I was joking. "Honey, that's outrageous. We can do 800. You can find somewhere else for 800. Her laugh died immediately. This was the shift they never saw coming. I wasn't their ATM. I was their landlord. And I wasn't sentimental. They signed the month-to-month agreement anyway because they had no choice. The bank was days away from taking the house outright. Living under my roof, literally, was their best option. The first month, they scraped the money together. The second month, they were late. The third month, they couldn't pay at all. And that's when Trevor moved in with them. The man who once walked around in designer sneakers now sleeping on a sunken couch with repossession agents combing through his social media for anything worth taking. He called me first. Not to apologize. To negotiate. "Bro," he sighed. "Can't we just work something out? We're family." "Family doesn't steal dogs," I said. "You're seriously going to evict your own parents?" "Yes." He sucked in a breath like he'd been slapped. "You're a monster." I chuckled. "Takes one to know one." I hung up and called my lawyer. Eviction filed. Clean. Legal. No drama. My parents tried every tactic. Crying, guilt, threats, long paragraphs about how they sacrificed everything for Trevor and therefore deserved mercy. But the paperwork moved forward. 2 weeks later, the sheriff's department posted the notice on the door. Then came the night my building lobby called. "Sir, your mother is here. She's crying. She says she'll wait for you." I pulled up the security feed. She sat on the lobby couch for 3 hours. Crying into tissue after tissue. Looking at the elevator every time it dinged, hoping it was me. It wasn't. And it never would be. When the eviction finally executed, they had 72 hours to vacate. I didn't go watch. I didn't need to. Property management sent photos. Empty rooms. Trash everywhere. Small holes in the drywall. Refrigerator missing, stolen, even though it came with the property. I hired cleaners. Painters. A handyman. Then listed the place at $2,100 a month. Rented in a week. Passive income, roughly $1,400 monthly after expenses. Steady. Clean. No emotional nonsense attached. Meanwhile, the fallout spread. Trevor's debts collapsed on him like a dying star. His car got repossessed. He lost his warehouse job to wage garnishment. He landed in a motel, then a shelter. Mom and Dad squeezed into a single-bedroom apartment in a rough neighborhood, all 4 of them sharing a space half the size of their old living room. Their social media disappeared. Their tone changed. Their pride cracked. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Because they taught me exactly what family meant to them. Family is the person you take from until there's nothing left. They just never expected me to stop letting them. 8 months passed. 8 quiet months where the only reminders of my parents were the automated rent deposits hitting my account from the new tenants. Life was good. Work was steady. Marissa and I were building something real. Zuko slept beside our bed every night like he was guarding the life I'd fought to create. Then one night at a UT basketball game, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. "This is Trevor. Can we talk? Please. I'm begging." I showed Marissa. She raised an eyebrow. "Begging now?" I nodded. "Apparently. You going?" "I think so," I said. "I need to see it." The next day, we met at a coffee shop downtown, public place, neutral ground. I walked in early. Trevor came in 5 minutes later. I didn't recognize him. He looked hollow. Gaunt. Clothes too big. Shoes thinning at the soles. Hands shaking when he sat down across from me. When he spoke, his voice scraped like he hadn't slept properly in months. "I'm not here for money," he said immediately. "Good," I said. "Because you're not getting any." He nodded like he already expected that. His eyes stayed on the table. I needed you to see what I've become." Silence from me. I wasn't going to fill it for his comfort. He swallowed hard. "I lost custody of Hudson," he said. "I get supervised visits at a facility that smells like bleach. He asked me why Grandma and Grandpa live in such a small apartment now. I didn't know what to tell him. Still, I said nothing. Dad had a heart attack last month," he continued. "A minor one. They can't afford the follow-ups. Mom's working 2 jobs at 63. They eat ramen most nights." He finally looked up. Eyes red, watery. "And I did this. I did all of it." "Yes," I said. "You did." He flinched like the word was a slap. Then he whispered, voice cracking. "That thing with Zuko, that was the worst moment of my life. Not losing the house. Not being arrested. Not living in a shelter. That moment. Watching you on the sidewalk as we drove away. I think about it every night. I don't sleep." He began crying, loud, ugly, real crying. Not performative. "Mom wanted me to tell you she's sorry," he said through tears. "She writes letters she doesn't send. Dad talks to himself at night, saying your name, saying he's sorry." I sipped my coffee. Let him drown in the silence he earned. "Is there any chance?" he said quietly. "Any chance at all we could start over? Not money. Not the house. Just a phone call sometimes. Hudson still asks about Uncle Evan. He kept that toy car you gave him when he was 4. I looked at him for a long, long moment. Then I stood. No. His face collapsed. Completely fell apart. "Evan, please. You asked if we could start over," I said. "But there's nothing to start over. There was never anything real between us. I was an emergency fund you shared DNA with. That's not. You took my dog," I said softly. "Stole him off the street. Threatened to sell him like he was a used couch. And now you want me to make small talk on holidays?" His mouth opened. Nothing came out. "Tell Mom I got her message," I said. "Tell Dad I don't care about his whispered apologies." I paused. "Actually, don't tell Hudson anything. When he's older, he'll figure out the truth. That you and his grandparents burned every bridge for money, and then wondered why no one came to visit." I turned to leave. Trevor grabbed the edge of the table like he was falling. "Evan, please. I'm begging you." I didn't turn around. "I know," I said. "That's the difference between us. I never begged for anything. I built something worth having." Then I walked out. Marissa was waiting in the car outside. "How'd it go?" she asked. "They're still begging. You forgive them?" "No." She nodded once, approving. "Good." Back home, Zuko climbed onto my lap, rested his head there like he knew something heavy had just passed through me. And for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely, defiantly untouchable. A week after the coffee shop, the messages started again. Different numbers. Different emails. Different tones. My mom tried the guilt angle. Evan, please. We're your parents. Families fight, but they come back together. My dad tried the macho angle. Be a man and talk to your father. Trevor tried the spiritual angle. Bro, God forgives. You should too. I ignored every single one. My silence was the first boundary they had no strategy for. But the universe has a sense of humor. Because just when I thought the dust had finally settled, just when I thought they'd accepted that I was gone from their lives for good, someone else decided to test the perimeter. My Aunt Melissa. The one who always acted like she was one glass of wine away from telling everyone's secrets. The one who used to call me the reliable nephew, while conveniently forgetting reliability isn't a compliment, it's a warning flag. She showed up at my apartment building. Not announced. Not invited. Just appeared in the lobby wearing sunglasses the size of satellite dishes and carrying a tote bag that said, "But first, wine." Security called me. "Sir, there's a woman here insisting she has an appointment with you." No, she didn't. I came downstairs anyway because I wanted to control the narrative before it spiraled into the family mythmaker that was Aunt Melissa. She brightened when she saw me, like we were old friends meeting for brunch. "Evan! There you are! Let's talk upstairs." "No," I said. She blinked. "No, what?" "No, we're not going upstairs. Say what you want to say here." Her face twitched. She wasn't used to being handled like an Amazon return. She lowered her voice. "Your mother is devastated. She cries every night. Your father hasn't been the same." "Trevor." "Stop," I said. "If this is a pity tour, you're wasting your time." She huffed. "You're being heartless." "Wrong," I said. "I'm being consistent. Heartless would have been letting them keep the house and drown with it. Heartless would have been letting Trevor sell my dog." She tried a different tactic. "They know they made mistakes. Mistakes imply accidents," I said. This was a pattern. A decades-long pattern. She shifted her weight, uncomfortable. "You're punishing them." "No. I'm protecting myself." A beat of silence. Then, the real reason she came. "You know your parents are struggling financially," she said carefully. "The family thinks it would be." She forced a smile. "Kind, if you could help them. Just a little." There it was. The ask? There's always an ask. "No," I said. "You didn't even let me finish." "I didn't need to." Her lips tightened. "They're saying you're cruel, Evan." I smiled, slow, deliberate. People who benefited from my lack of boundaries will always call boundaries cruelty. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe she didn't. The Evan she knew would have caved by now, written a check, apologized for making her uncomfortable. That Evan was gone. Or maybe he was never real in the first place. Aunt Melissa finally sighed. "You know," she said, "someday you'll regret this." "No," I said calmly. "I really won't." I pressed the elevator button for her. She took the hint. As the doors closed, she muttered, "Your mother doesn't deserve this." I said nothing. Because arguing with someone committed to misunderstanding you is a waste of oxygen. That night, sitting on the couch with Marissa and Zuko curled against my leg, I felt something shift. Not anger. Not triumph. Just closure. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that arrives quietly, like a room going still after someone finally stops talking. I'd been their solution, their punching bag, their excuse, their scapegoat. Now, I was none of those things. And they were learning, slowly, painfully, that when you treat someone like they don't exist, eventually they don't. Not for you. Not anymore. I thought Aunt Melissa's lobby ambush would be the last flare-up. But people like my family don't fade quietly. They escalate until the world forces them to stop. The spark this time wasn't money. It was reputation. 3 days after Melissa's visit, I woke up to 19 unread messages, all variations of the same theme. Your mother is telling everyone you abandoned the family. Your dad says you stole their house. Trevor says you're unstable. They're painting you as the villain. And honestly, it didn't bother me. Villain in their story meant I finally stopped being the victim in mine. But what did bother me was this last message, from my cousin Tanner. Bro, they're planning something. Mom overheard your dad saying, "We'll make him come to us." Don't know what that means. Just be careful. I leaned back on the couch, Zuko's head dropping into my lap like a warm, heavy warning system. Marissa looked up from her laptop. They're not done, are they? No, I said. They never are. The thing about people who feel entitled to you is that they panic when the access runs out. They twist the narrative, recruit allies, build a story where they are the wronged ones. And when that doesn't work, they escalate. The escalation came in the form of a letter. Handwritten. Slid under my door like some Victorian gilt delivery. I picked it up. Recognized the handwriting immediately. My mother's. I opened it slowly, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know the angle this time. It wasn't an apology. Of course it wasn't. It was a manifesto. 4 pages of emotional grenades. We did our best. You were always difficult. Trevor needed more help than you. You misunderstand us. You're ungrateful. You need to come home and fix this before it destroys the family. If you don't call us, we will come again. The last line was underlined 3 times. They weren't done. Not even close. Marissa read the letter over my shoulder. Her expression didn't change much, just one slow exhale through her nose. They want a war, she said. No, I replied. They want access. Same thing with your family. She wasn't wrong. I folded the letter neatly and set it on the counter. Then I did something none of them expected, something the old version of me would have never done. I called my lawyer again. Hey, I said. We need to talk about long-term protections. For you? For me. For my home. For my peace. And for anyone they tried to pull into this. There was a pause. Restraining order? He asked carefully. Not yet, I said. But I want every foundation laid. So when they cross the line, and they will, I won't hesitate. This time, the rage wasn't hot. It was cold. Controlled. Directed. Because survival isn't always about running from who you were. Sometimes it's about building a life sturdy enough that the past can't knock on the door anymore. Not without consequence. Not without losing. 3 weeks passed before the next hit came. Long enough for me to almost forget the letter. Long enough for my guard to soften. But not long enough for my family to accept a reality where I existed outside their control. The escalation didn't come from my parents. It came from someone who hadn't spoken to me in 8 years. My older cousin Jeremy. Let me explain Jeremy. He was the family's self-appointed moral compass, loud, dramatic, and always picking the side that made him look righteous. He once told a room full of people that I was emotionally stunted, because I left a barbecue early to study for finals. He loved 2 things. Being right. Being seen being right. So when he texted me out of nowhere, I wasn't surprised. Jeremy. We need to talk. You've caused enough damage. I didn't respond. 20 minutes later. Jeremy. If you don't meet me, I'll come to your apartment. This family needs healing, and you're the obstacle. There it was. The entitlement. Not anger. Not sadness. Entitlement. I was the problem because I stopped volunteering my spine for them to walk on. I still ignored him. Then he called. And texted again. And again. Finally, he sent the line that made my blood go cold. Jeremy. Your parents said they're scared you might hurt yourself. They think you're mentally unstable. They're considering a wellness check. I read it twice. Then a third time. Like I couldn't quite believe how low they'd sunk. A wellness check. The nuclear option for a manipulative family. The kind of thing that puts a report on your record. The kind of thing that can damage clearances. The kind of thing that can haunt you professionally for years. Marissa saw my face shift. "What is it?" she asked. I handed her my phone. Her face darkened instantly. "They wouldn't." "They would," I said quietly. "And they might." She shook her head. "They're playing with fire." I stood there for a moment, breathing slowly, the way you do when you feel something old and dangerous stirring inside you. Because this wasn't about money anymore. This wasn't even about Zuko. This was about rewriting the story, painting me as broken, unstable, someone who needed intervention. Someone who couldn't possibly be choosing to cut them off, unless he was mentally unwell. Jeremy sent another text. "Jeremy. They're trying to help you. Stop being stubborn and talk to them before this gets worse." I typed back a single sentence. "Me. If you or anyone else sends police to my home under false pretenses, I will file criminal charges." He responded immediately. "Jeremy. Wow. So hostile. This is why everyone is worried about you." I didn't reply. I forwarded the entire text thread to my lawyer. Within 24 hours, he had drafted a cease and desist order naming Jeremy, my mother, my father, Trevor, and anyone acting at their encouragement or instruction. The letter was sharp, clean, and devastatingly polite. Any attempt to initiate a wellness check, police involvement, or third-party harassment will be treated as malicious misuse of emergency resources and responded to with criminal and civil action. My lawyer mailed it. Emailed it. Sent it certified. Served it. 3 days later, the silence finally arrived. But it wasn't peace. It was the quiet a forest gets before a storm hits. The kind where even the animals hold their breath. Because that letter didn't end things. It cornered them. Which meant the next move would be desperate, predictable, and vicious. I just didn't know how bad it would get. The storm didn't break all at once. It started with a single ripple. An email. Not from my mother. Not from Trevor. Not even from Jeremy. It was from HR. Subject line: "Urgent. Please contact HR regarding a report submitted about you." My stomach dropped so fast it felt like missing a step in the dark. I opened it. The message was short. "Hi, Evan. We received a call from an individual claiming to be a family member, alleging concerns about your mental well-being and potential instability. Per policy, we need to follow up. Please call us today." My vision tunneled. This was the one line they weren't supposed to cross. Not this. Not my job. Not the career I built from nothing, while they cheered for Trevor's entrepreneur grind, and forgot entire years of my life. Marissa looked over from the kitchen island. "What happened?" I handed her the tablet. She cursed under her breath. "They're trying to get you fired. They think if I lose the job, I'll crawl back," I said quietly. Or worse, they wanted to create a narrative that I was unstable. That the dog incident, the eviction, the boundaries, were symptoms of some emotional collapse, not self-protection. Because if I was unstable, then they weren't villains. They were caretakers. Abusers hate when their victims escape. They panic when their victim thrives. And when they panic, they rewrite reality. I called HR. My voice was calm, steady, professional, exactly the opposite of whatever story my family told. I walked them through the facts. The estrangement. The harassment. The attempted extortion. The dog napping. The cease and desist. Then I emailed all the documentation. The serve notice. The texts. Screenshots. Police incident number. HR went silent for a few seconds. Then the rep exhaled audibly. "Evan. I'm so sorry." And then she said the sentence that saved everything. "We're marking this as malicious external harassment. You're clear." I thanked her, hung up, and sat there staring at the wall. Zuko nudged his head against my knee like he could sense the adrenaline shaking through me. Marissa sat beside me on the couch. They're escalating because they know they lost. Or because they're desperate, I said. Both were true. But neither prepared me for what came next. Because the next hit didn't come from a phone call or a text. It came from a knock on my door. A slow, heavy knock. Not frantic. Not angry. The kind of knock someone uses when they know you're home. And they want you to open out of fear, not politeness. I checked the peephole. And froze. Not my parents. Not Trevor. Not Jeremy. It was a social worker. Clipboard. Badge. Neutral face. My blood went cold. They had filed a report. Against me. Hi, are you Evan? She asked through the door. I received a call alleging you might be in a mental health crisis. There it was. The wellness check. Formal. Official. The one thing the cease and desist couldn't prevent if a third party expressed concern. My voice was steady, but inside something cracked. Yes, I said. I'm Evan. And I know exactly who called you. What I didn't know, not yet, was how long they'd been planning this. Or how far they were willing to go. But I was about to find out. The social worker stood there with her calm face and clipboard like she'd walked into a storm without realizing the lightning was already touching the ground. May I come in? She asked. No, I said. But we can talk right here. She blinked, surprised but not offended. We received a call expressing concern that you might be a danger to yourself. I need to verify your safety. I nodded, pulled out my phone, and handed her the cease and desist order, the police case number, HR documentation, and screenshots of every manipulative message. She read slowly, jaw tightening with each page. This happens more than people think, she murmured. Family weaponizing wellness checks. Mine weaponized everything else. This was the only card left. She glanced past me. Zuko sat behind my legs, alert but calm, his presence grounding. You don't seem distressed, she said. I wasn't, I replied. Until I realized how far they'd go. That earned a small, sympathetic exhale. She closed her folder. You're fine. I'm closing this as unfounded. If they call again, it'll be flagged as harassment. When she left, the silence in the hallway felt different. Not fearful. Final. I texted my lawyer everything. He called back instantly. Evan, we're done playing defense. 2 days later, a new letter went out, this time not a warning but a legal barricade. A formal petition barring further contact, direct or indirect. Violations prosecutable. My mother tried twice more, from a new number, and then through a cousin. Both messages were identical. Please, we're begging you. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The court order did it for me. Weeks passed. Austin warmed. Zuko stopped sleeping with one eye open. Marissa moved in officially. We hung new shelves, bought a ridiculous amount of plants, created a home that felt like oxygen. One night on the balcony, she asked quietly, Do you ever think you'll speak to them again? I didn't even hesitate. No. Not out of rage. Out of certainty. Some doors you don't close. Some doors you lock. Some doors you brick over. And some doors you watch burn from a distance and feel nothing but relief. I scratched Zuko behind the ears, looked out at my city, my life, the peace I had built myself brick by brick. No begging, I said softly. Not this time. Not ever again. And for the first time in 32 years, the future felt like mine.